Welcome to Parent Guilty Conscious, Season 2, Episode 1. I'm happy that all of you are still giving me the support that I really need on this journey. And thank you, and welcome. This episode I'm going to discuss, mostly it's going to be about my son. So this is how my son's journey begins. The healing process in this episode has so many questions from my son and my daughter. But this episode, basically this season 2, episode 1, I'll talk about my son, how he's coping. Myself, but I want to be clear that I'm not a therapist. And all of you, I know you know that parenting don't come with a manual. You know, everybody has their own ways of how they parent. I'm just trying to answer my son to the best of my knowledge and to the best of my ability, and trying to guide him well. Like they normally say, a new opportunity means a fresh start, and all the wonderful possibilities the new beginnings bring in this season. And that especially is my parents came back. As you all know, this season 2 also, my parents came back. And now they are the full custodians of my children. So we'll go step by step. As my son asked me so many questions in this episode. What this journey really taught me is that some people are meant to be part of your journey for a short while. And that's okay. I console myself saying, that's okay. I decided personally not to carry the weight or lower my standards by clinging on to the things that were said or done to me and done to my kids, because it will do me no good. So I decided to grow and nothing will block my growth. I can say I am healing and I'm happy. I mean by saying that I'm getting there. I've not reunited with my children, but me and my children, I can say for a fact that we're in a better place than where we were these 8 years because of my parents. And I give thanks to God because of they came back. Nowadays I sleep with no worry. The worry is there, but it's not the worry that was there. I don't depend on friends no more. I don't depend on relatives that much. My dad is basically my hero. He does everything now, advises me, guides me. And he took this role just with the snap of his finger. My children can now go to church. They had missed church for several years. I don't have to beg no one to go to church with my children no more. These are some of the achievements. And I'm happy inside that my children went back to church. They went back to church. My son can pray. He was praying, yes. But now he's happy. I lost it all before, but I knew who my real friends were. This journey was an eye-opener. Really, really eye-opener. And now my only goal now is to move forward, because no human being can go backwards, you know. That's me. We can only move forward as the day goes by. I will start with my son and the transition that he's going through. If you can remember, there's an episode I told you about him not wiping his behind. It's just a recent episode. If you've been following me, you've heard about that episode. And it is through my father that I came to realize what was going on with my son and why his behavior started all of a sudden when he lived with my friend. Well, I have a progress report. My son stopped that behavior and he's now clean. He wipes his behind and he no longer soils his inner pants. And he even stopped wetting his bed. And I came to realize he started wetting his bed due to the stress, the pressure, and the environment they were in. And he was embarrassed all the time. because of doing it. Well, as I told you, the previous nanny, the nanny cousin, used to embarrass him when he wet his bed or not clean his behind. So he was just scared. He didn't know how to handle all this. So what we did, me and my dad, we encouraged my son not to drink a lot of water or juice before bedtime. But this was a challenge because my son, he took after me. I drink a lot of water, a lot. And so does my son. So sometimes I just let him have it, but we created a routine. We cut things like screen time. We wanted him to be going to bed early, and we really tried cut drinking like juice or water late when he's almost going to bed. So far, it's going on well. But if my son is thirsty, I do not shy away from telling him, you can go ahead and drink some water. And I came to realize, this is a little bit sad, my son developed anxiety. And this was because he was being embarrassed by the previous nannies when he did wet his bed. So he has anxiety at a young age. And he did not even want to talk about it. And I had to create a name for bed wetting. I called it an accident because it is. Nobody wants to wet the bed, especially children. Or I know there's some older people who still wet their bed, but well. So, and it went well. So when he woke up, I used to ask him if he had an accident, and he could say yes or no. I realized he liked that word, accident. So I never used to tell him, or I never let anybody tell him that the way he's wet the bed. No, I used to ask him, Daddy, did you have an accident? And he will say no. And he was excited, when he doesn't have an accident, he was so excited. And if he had an accident, the sister would come in and he would help him soak his sheets and help him clean it up. Then shower, and that way he felt a little bit responsible and not embarrassed. But you remember how our previous nannies used to treat him very harshly and embarrass him even in front of his friends or anybody. And my son developed anxiety because of that. And he kept on asking me questions. Why he's having these accidents. I came to realize that he was asking these particular questions because of fear, embarrassment, and confusion. He knew it was wrong and so embarrassed, but he did not understand. But nowadays, sometimes he can have those accidents sometimes, maybe once in a week, which to me, that's a very good progress. And it shows me that wherever he is comfortable. So my son, when he comes back from school, we normally on video calls. So that's when these questions started, random questions. He's just all over the place. He will start remembering stuff that was done with his father, my friend, and the nannies. He is all over the place with these questions. So I will try and put them in a very easy manner to be understood. So one day I was on video call with my son, and he randomly started asking me questions like, my son asked me, Mommy, you mean you were supposed to pay our family friend for taking care of us, even after you were paying for everything? Remember, this boy is 10 years old now. He used to see everything. He used to know his mommy used to do all these things. So he has questions. So he kept them. Sometimes as adults, we do things we think that these children don't know, but they really know. My son's brain now is like a camera. His memory, he can recall. He's recalling. So he asked me, Mommy, you mean you were supposed to be paying for us, for a family friend of taking care of us, even after you were paying for everything? Everything? You literally was doing everything, Mommy? I told him yes. So he's like, So he had a hidden agenda. He was pretending with us, mommy. You know, my son felt really bad because he really liked my friend. He loved him. He loved him because the way he was treating him, he took really good care of him. He was very close to my children and he made sure my kids loved him. So I could not tell my kids he did even me wrong because it really affected both of them. If you hear my episodes, you will see how they were lastly chased away from that house. Like stuff were really being thrown out. Their mama was being attacked. So these kids knew what was going on. And this has really made them feel like even them, they don't want to trust anybody. So I told him, yes, he had a hidden agenda, but we forgive. And then he smiles and says, I don't know if I can forgive him, Mom. I don't know. And I told him, I thought he was done. I just told him, no, we have to forgive. Then he continues and goes ahead and tells me, Mommy, you remember when our family friend used to ask you for money? It is because his girlfriend used to ask him money and he could call me and ask me money, then he could give this girlfriend the money. All this, my son was telling me. So he saw how my family friend was using me. The girlfriend asks him money. He tells the girlfriend to wait, and then he calls me and he asks me money and maybe create a story about this money. Maybe the kids need this. So me, I send money. And when I send this money, he used to give the girlfriend. So my son, I was like, really, my son? I was like, yes, I used to feel bad, but I could not tell you, Mommy. Then he's like, whenever you call to check on us, he could sometimes make faces. When I call, he could sometimes make faces. And I just laughed and I told my son, well, we are okay now, right? Because I did not want to dwell on that. But my son knew it was wrong. Because what was I supposed to tell a 10-year-old boy? And I don't want him to have anger in him. He saw too much and knows too much. And that's why I think they became so protective over me. And I could see like he was developing an anger pattern. I mean, what can I tell him, friends? But I was silent, but I said, I need to explain to him something. And I told my son, we need to learn to forgive and let go. He was very hesitant, but I talked him out of his anger and he agreed. But my daughter wasn't happy about it. She said, it's not fair for people to do wrong to us and we just easily forgive. How long will this go on? So another thing before all these incidences, I realized my son, it was a worrying trend that I saw my son do was fights. He used to fight with his fellow friends. He used to just get angry. And before I never used to understand, because my daughter could run and tell me my son is fighting outside, or my family friend could tell me the neighbor complained that my son hit somebody like that. And this trend was happening all the time. So I didn't know he was developing this anger. Even after they moved and my parents came and everything was okay, he still had this. So he used to fight with his fellow friends and he will tell me he's defending himself. And no one will talk bad on him or gossip him. He was developing anger. And this is where I applaud my father and I thank him. I thank him a lot. He started talking to my son. And my dad decided to make my son busy by creating like a soccer team. I lost our younger brother. My brother died. So we created my late brother's soccer team. And we let my son be in charge of the soccer team. So he was busy and had tasks to do. So my dad provided a positive attention. It took a few weeks and he came in line and changed that behavior. My dad was so calm to wait because this is something that has been growing in him. He could see how they were treated, how the sister was treated, how their mom was treated. People talked ill of their mom. So they had anger. We could praise him when he was at his soccer field on time and put kids online on time. He could go on time. So he's in charge of that team now. So that's how we tried to direct his anger and his fights. We tried to direct it. And my son also came to realize that my dad also came to realize my son was also seeking attention, the lack of a father figure and a mom. Even though technology has helped me, I talk to my children every day, we do homeworks, we do everything, but that physical touch is not there. The disappointments, like my son, like my family friend, he once talked of changing his name. You see, my son talked of changing his name to my family friend's name. So I don't know how my son came about that. My son he was saying he was Muslim. Even if you hear his phone, his alarm clock is this Muslim songs and everything. Everything was in Muslim. I want to be clear on this one. I'm not trying to bash any religion whatsoever. I'm just talking how my son wanted to change, and he's a 10-year-old. So it was so much that I could not control it. So in short, my son was seeking attention through his fights and all this, because he wanted to follow my family friend because he's of a Muslim religion. So he wanted to even change his last name to his name. He could listen to this psalm. He started praying all those 5 times a day. So he was copying what my family friend was doing. He literally asking me to buy him those Muslim clothes that they wear, the religious clothes they wear. So honestly, I did not know what to tell him. I was quiet and I was agreeing to whatever he was saying. Aside from that, I was so calm during this. No shouting, but a positive talk. I realized also my son lacked the parental love my son needed. But I realized also he needed to know that he's loved and he's special regardless of how he's acting. My son needed that assurance, that hug, that warmth. And my father was there to give that hug and that assurance. So far, we no longer hear those daily fights, but he will ask for soccer balls and kids. He says he's going to be a superstar, things like that, which is positive to us. So one day, after playing, he was playing just near at the soccer field. So they were almost done. And my friend's house where they used to live, they had left their taps running. I think there was no water, and then, the way somebody can make that mistake, you open your taps and then because there's no water, you forget to turn them off. So my son being my son, he knew what to do because he was living there. He went and told the guards at the gate that water was flowing from that house, and they should call my friend now. So the guard called him, and my son said he wants to talk to him. He knows where to go and turn off the faucet or something. So when my friend talked to my son rushed, climbed the wall, reached over the roof and jumped on the other side of the house and was ready and closed the faucet, and everything was okay. You see, still he helped my family friend. He still helped because this was somebody close to them. So my son was still ready to help. So those are the positive things I saw my son change. But still, my son's questions did not end that way. But then my son asked me, why don't you ask him your stuff that you bought him? Like watch, chain, shoes. I just laughed and told my son, there's no need. Like, why? My son is like, because you bought them. I told my son, no, I bought them as an appreciation and I can't take them back. I did it with honesty. No ill was intended. I had a pure heart while I was doing it. He still did not understand this. My son was like, no, mommy, you need to take them. My young son, like I told you, he can be all over the place. He has bits of stories that affected him and asked me sometimes why. Even he asked me, why did my father had to abandon us just like that? Why did my dad? He's holding his chest. I'm on video with him. Why did he choose alcohol, Mom? He doesn't even call me. He drinks too much. He does not even talk to me. He does not even come when there's a parents' meeting in school. So I just told my son the truth. There's no need of him coming and embarrassing you in school when he's drunk. He had a choice, and he chose alcohol. Then he went ahead and told me, then Mom, if you cannot be my father and come back, I want to change my last name. I don't want that last name because that's his name. I want my name. I don't want his name. That he feels embarrassed using this last name. And I told him, no, that's your family name. That's your identity, Baba. That's your identity. He told me he doesn't want that name. But with my son, I'm still looking for a good therapist. I know I'm doing my best. He doesn't care about his father. And honestly, I want to change that, but I cannot force him. I have decided just to let him open up. Because there's a day he said, point blank, Mommy, I don't have a father. And I told him, don't say that. Don't say that. I said, yeah, I don't. There's a time I tried a therapist and my kids were only going on Saturdays. But like, if you remember my episodes, he wanted like 5,000 Kenya shillings. That's like $50 per session, per hour. And they were not doing anything. My son used to go to the office and he was in his computer. He will just ask them 2 questions and that was it. So I stopped it. So I'm still looking for a good one. And if anybody has a recommendation in Kenya, a good therapist, you can reach me on my email at achoch@gmail.com. I'll really appreciate it. So my son, he's still a child and I wanted to be with him on video, but when they were the therapist, but he could have some excuses, but so I stopped. What can you honestly tell your own child? They've been through a lot at a young age with the people they loved and they knew very much. Then he comes again in these conversations. Mom, you know, Aunt, now my cousin now, who mistreated them, could abuse us so bad. And he could remember what he used to say. I'm like, let's forgive, Baba, let's forgive. I'm like, just let's forgive. So we learned how to pray. But I still question myself, why now? Why is my son with all these questions now? All these conversations are based on his past experiences. Is he comfortable right now that he's telling me all these things? And what I learned, you cannot promise my son something and don't do it. You have to say it and you'll do it. This is as a result of broken promises from his own father and people. I kept my promise, but I failed them when I left. Another thing, my son tells me, he has dreams, weird, very weird dreams. When he used to live at my friend's house, he never wanted to turn off the lights. He could not even go to the bathroom or the shower without someone standing at the door, waiting for him to finish. He could not even go to the bedroom alone, but now he does. He was scared, and I don't know the reason. Because he used to tell me he has weird dreams. Because before, his dreams could be about death or sufferings, like ghosts, like weird dreams. He even feared talking about them the next day. He did not even want to talk about the dreams because he was even scared. But nowadays, he doesn't dream. He can go shower alone. But he remembers all these things. Sometimes he can be showering and just dashes out of the bathroom because I think when he was in the shower, he remembers something and just gets running from the bathroom. He will just take his towel and just run. So those are still the challenges with my son. And I still wonder how I'll help him. The pain that I had within me was a lesson, and the lesson changed me, and all this made me work more harder. And I achieved more over the years. I can't fake my feelings and tell you I'm okay. I can smile, laugh, dance with you, my friends, but I'm healing. Healing well. My children are healing. Next on my episode, it will be season 2, where I introduce my daughter, how she's coping. My daughter joined high school, and she's no longer with my son, my daughter. She went to a boarding school. And the next season, it will be how my daughter is coping and how my son also is coping, because the sister is no longer there. My son now lives with my parents and a nanny. I sleep well at least, and no more nightmares, no more worries, no more figuring out how I will call a friend to help me. I'm like free after 10 years. I was so used to people, depending on people, and I felt down all the time. But now I'm healing. Y'all, if you like the show, please consider leaving a review. This helps my podcast to grow. Then hit the follow button. Please hit the follow button. And you can share with your friends. If you have questions or any advice you want to give me, how I can help my son, please reach me out on achoch@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate you for tuning in and taking time to listen to my story. Please share, follow wherever you're listening to at any podcast, from Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and iHeart. Thank you for taking time and listening to this journey with me. Next Saturday, you'll hear season 2, episode 2, where I introduced my daughter and how she's coping. Thank you for listening to Parents Guilty Conscious. Bye-bye.